On this episode of Property Journal, I'm talking to Lee McQueen. Lee is a highly regarded and established entrepreneur. Lee started his journey to business success as a contestant on BBC's reality show The Apprentice, winning Series 4 of the programme and working with Lord Alan Sugar. Lee is the founder of his own sales and recruitment company, Raw Talent Academy, and tech company, Phoenix 51. As a dad of 3, I'm interested to know how Lee juggles family and work, as well as having time for himself and his beloved Tottenham Hotspur. Lee has been very open about his lack of qualifications at school, not holding him back in being successful in business. And I'm really keen to open that conversation up. I'm really looking forward to talking with Lee. Lee, welcome.
Hello, how are you getting on?
All good, you?
Not too bad. It's a bit warm. If I'm not, I could have gone with a vest and shorts, but I didn't think that was going to be appropriate for what we're doing today, John. So but it's
I don't
lovely
like
actually. Mate, to be fair, there's a lot of people that are out in shorts and summer dresses. Summer is absolutely hit. That's for sure.
But it's about to break. Apparently, it's going to rain this weekend, and I'm going back to try and enjoy.
Check us out, classic Brits, aren't we? Talking about the weather, classic Brits, don't matter where you are.
Moan about it when it's hot.
Exactly, we are classic, aren't we?
Well, tell me, who is Lee McQueen?
Who's Lee McQueen? Well, I'm a father for 3 girls. I'm a bit of a showman. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business guy, although I can't say successful yet in my own head. I'm a guy that challenges and strives for success, and success to me is proving to me that I can do what I've set out to do.
Which you've done a number of times, and you still don't feel successful.
I think it's a work in progress, John. Yeah, I think it's a work in progress. I mean, I think that there's probably a deeper point to that, which is I don't think that I've accomplished anything until I've exited the current tech business that I'm building. But actually, if you look back on all the things that I've done so far, I'll let other people judge.
Yeah.
I don't think until I'm sipping pina colada somewhere, which would be nice today, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
On a boat somewhere, I'm not sure whether I look at that as being successful.
I find that really interesting. I mean, just to take, for example, the program, The Apprentice. You beat how many thousand people to even get onto the program to be a contestant, and then you won Series 4. That's successful. That's
it's interesting. I mean, back then it seems weird because it was so long ago, but 20,000 people to get onto the show, and then obviously 16 people for 12 weeks, and then ended up winning it. Yeah. So I don't know if that was written in the stars or not. No. I made a conscious decision early doors, John, to be myself. Yeah. People talk about strategy in business and strategy about winning things and so on and so forth. I'm a very simple bloke, and it's just kind of, decide what you're going to do, work hard, and then achieve. And then, if the achievements will come if you decide to then work hard. Yeah. And I just decided I was going to work hard and be myself, and
which makes you authentic.
Ultimately worked.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that genuinely aren't like that in life. I mean, that undoubtedly must have helped you on the program. A lot of people I've spoken to that I've told I'm going to be talking to you will say, I remember Lee. He was a really nice guy. And it's that
nice
whole
guys don't win though, do they?
Well, you do.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I like, because you didn't have what I'd call a game plan or whatever. You just wanted to win, right? And you were yourself. Take me back to when you were younger. What did a young Lee want to be growing up?
You know what? It comes back to an authentic piece. I could sit here and say, I used to sell lemonade on the front lawn, and I was really entrepreneurial from an early age. And maybe that's one for my mum to answer, because I don't remember that. I don't remember doing anything. I think the earliest, I suppose, business or entrepreneurial thing came in my late teens, like 17, when I bought my first house. So I moved out at 17, bought my first house when I was 18. But I think
it's a really mature thing to do.
Yeah, but it was a needs must as well, right? At that time. So I think in childhood, I wasn't very good at sport. I loved it, but I weren't very good at it. Okay. I was the guy that went to school in, no offense to anyone that wears high tech now, it's probably really fashionable, but I was the guy that went to school in high tech trainers when everyone else was in Reebok and Nike, right? That was the reality. And for those old enough to remember Woolworths, I was the kid that had the black plimsolls from Woolworths when everyone else had the more groovy stuff. So second-hand BMXs, the rustiness coming off the BMX and making it look shiny and nice when everyone else had brand new stuff. So that was me. It wasn't a bad childhood at all. It was good. My dad's a milkman by trade, 42 years. So my mum's a receptionist, doctor was a receptionist. Well, she was at the time before they retired. So, you know, come from pretty, you know, humble beginnings, really. Lived in a council house that my parents ended up buying through the factory years. Yeah, that was my childhood. I just remember kind of going out and just, you know, playing.
Having fun.
Yeah, just having fun, really. And then later on in kind of like early teens, mid-teens, it was about being, I wouldn't say a rebel, but being a little bit more rebellious on certain things, stand out a little bit later, doing things that maybe people don't do. Hopefully my 3 daughters don't do this now, by the way. So if they're watching, better not do this when you're older. But yeah, you know, going out and kind of hanging out with your mates down the park and, you know, having a drink or whatever it might be.
Yeah. It's interesting, the whole 3 daughters. I've got 2 daughters, 11 and 13, right?
Yeah.
I struggle to be inspired at school. It's something we're going to talk about now because I know it's a big part of your story. But when you say, better not do that now and so on, I'm kind of thinking, my God, I don't want to be a hypocrite as a dad, but, you know, study, get your exams, pass and get a good job. That's kind of how I was brought up. And actually, that's not at all how my career unfolded.
Yeah.
Same for you. So how are you going to embrace that with your own kids?
It's interesting. A lot of people that know me think that I'm not against education, but kind of I stand against education in the sense of, look, we don't hire based on a CV or a resume. Like my whole business premise and my whole belief is about hiring based on attitude and behaviours. So you know, education isn't the be all and end all. And we live in a world today about diversity and inclusion. And when you say them 2 words, a lot of people think about, you know, gender, or they think about, you know, LGBTQ plus or inclusiveness around kind of, you know, BAME. Yeah. But they don't really think about being educational, right? So, you know, what's inclusive in education? Does it matter if you've got a degree or I haven't got a degree, you know? And so we are trying to give our children the best possible education because we think that, you know, it's not just about the education, it's about that the standards that they be set. Yeah. But then it's up to them what they ultimately do with that. But I didn't have that. I didn't have interest in school. I was the class jester. I was the guy that sat at the back of the class. Probably to some of the people that really wanted to study, the annoying guy. Yeah. But actually to most of the class that was that made everyone laugh, and you know, that was me. And I enjoyed that element of it. But study and exams, I was useless, absolutely useless. And I don't. It's weird actually. I've got twins that are 9, and they are going through their kind of first mock exams at the moment of where they are, and they're coming back and they're, you know, really, they're being put through these exams not for what the end results are. They're 9. It's about the experience of revision and going through that piece. And they come back. You can see the anxiety, the worry. Oh my God, you know, I need to be able to do this stuff. And my one of my twins, Lottie, literally came home yesterday and she got her maths result. And I won't embarrass her what it was. It wasn't as what she wanted it to be. And you could tell it was hard for her. And I just feel that it teaches them the values of things, of what, you know, does that hurt you? Getting that result, and what do you want to do about it? Because it's up to you. You can, next time around, you can revise more, you can practice more, you can get better at that. Or if it doesn't bother you, then you won't change that up. Does that make sense?
No, it
so
does make absolute sense.
I think it's a values piece, certainly in the early years. I didn't, you know, my GCSEs were pretty poor. You know, I saw a lot of my friends go off to do A levels, which I didn't qualify for. I then saw a lot of my friends go off to university, which you know, in my era was if you didn't do that, then you're on the back foot already. But like I said, referenced a minute ago, I had a mortgage at 18, so people were doing A levels, and I own a house. Yeah,
what an investment that was.
Yeah, and again, I'd like to say, you know, I was renting, so I think that for me, I wouldn't say it's an epiphany, but for me it was about, why am I wasting money every single month just giving it to somebody else when I actually could have an investment? So I went to the bank manager, the days that you could go and speak to your bank manager and say, look, I want a mortgage. And they kind of laughed me out of the room. Essentially, it's like, you've got to do certain things. So tell me what I need to do and I'll go and do it. And that was the first foray into determination of business or cash or investment. Yeah. 6 months later, went back with a bunch of pay slips after working 2 jobs, 7 days a week, and showing what I could do, and I got approved for a mortgage. And that was the first time that I was on the property ladder at that age.
Yeah, talk to me about property then, because you started really young. Did you carry that whole thing on from an investment point of view?
A little bit. I mean, I think that we own 3 properties. I say me and my wife now, so not a huge amount of property development. But what we essentially did was every time we built enough equity in that said property, we'd then upgrade. So we got our kind of forever house relatively early.
Yeah.
A lot of people have probably caught us up now, but it is our forever house. It doesn't actually matter to us. We've actually loved it for such a long time. But we always felt that we needed to push ourselves in property. So I think I don't know if it's made 7 or 8, and we also own 3 at the moment as well.
As buy to let.
Yeah. So well, I actually let my mum live in one of the properties, so she lives in that.
What you did there, from the point of view of spent loads of money on university fees and so on, you've invested and you've created something that you're living on the back of now, you and your wife and your family.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not sure I saw it like that back then, though, John,
no.
to be fair.
But that's the reality, right?
Yeah, but that is the reality. I mean, there's still people that are coming out of university 10 years after they finish, they're still paying student debt. There's a whole wider communication or interview maybe for another time talking about how the education system's set up and what we're actually learning, because there's absolutely no doubt, if you fast forward to where I'm here today, 2.5 years into building a technology startup, with having no previous experience in technology whatsoever and not being able to, not having sold technology, never got investment before, and the amount of learning that I've done in the last 2.5 years by doing that is far outweighed what I learned at school.
Yeah, and it's real. It's on the job.
Yeah, but there is also a debate to that. Is well, actually, you wouldn't have got there if you hadn't done that. So I think the two, it's not one or another, but it's the paths that we choose to go down, almost, isn't it?
No, I get that. So from a business point of view, you won The Apprentice.
Yeah.
You become Alan Sugar's business partner. What was that like?
Well, it was slightly different to that back then. So back in 2008, you won a job rather than a business partner, that changed in 2007. So up until 2014. So up until 2014, you won a job, and then it might have been 2012 actually, but up until Series 7 is what I meant to say. You actually then become a business partner. So I actually got the best of both worlds, right? Because I got a job with him, 6-figure salary, which I was on good money before. Like I was in a really good job. I was a sales and delivery manager at a massive FTSE 100 business. I was responsible for 32 million turnover business unit within this FTSE 100, right? So I had a very good job. I was getting paid really well. But I wanted to challenge myself. Again, that coming back to myself, like, I haven't got a degree, I haven't got education, but can I go up against these people? Can I prove to myself that I can do this?
Yeah.
Which is why I applied. Obviously got on and stuff, and then ended up winning. And so they gave you a job, or you earned the job back then. But the job for me at that time wasn't a job; it was actually building a business. So I got the best of both worlds. So I got to build a business with Lord Sugar and his son Simon, who is very well funded because it's obviously Lord Sugar.
Sure.
But equally, I also got the 6-figure salary to go with it and that security piece as well. So that taught me. It gave me huge courage and confidence to be able to go and set my own company up. Because to be honest, I always wanted to do my own thing.
Yep.
But I didn't have the courage or the conviction to do it. Going back to my mantra before is like, decide, work hard, and achieve. I couldn't apply that to setting my own business up before I got the skill set or the gap that had closed in my skill set after The Apprentice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
So in
sense.
my head, I was like, okay, I'll do this. I'll get the skills needed to set up a company, which I did, and then I went and done my own thing.
Ah, it's brilliant. We're actually filming in the Jack offices, JAQ, just to ask a question, the social media mental health platform. What are your thoughts on Jack?
I think it's absolutely brilliant, actually, Jack, to be fair. I mean, if you look at it from a mental health perspective, I don't know what the timelines would be, maybe 10, 15 years or so, it would have been straitjacket. People would have think mental health, straitjacket, or give you some pills or whatever it is. And, there was a real stigma attached to it. And people are now talking about stuff and making sure that we're asking questions and we're being open and especially men, right? We talk about, we won't talk about our age, but we talk about the age that we might be. And we are prime for suicides, in our age category. 35 to 45 is a prime category in male for suicides. And actually us men traditionally thinking that we know it all and we don't need to
bottle it all up.
Bottle it all up. We don't need to talk about our feelings, that sort of stuff. So about just asking the question and actually talking about that mental health piece is being critical. I actually think it's been sped up over the last 3 years, definitely since COVID. And I think that since the pandemic hit us all, humans are funny creatures, right? So, you know, we like to be together. We're a herd, as it were, and then to be split from the herd has had an effect on a lot of people that we both know, or you know, businesses and you know, friends and family and whatever. To be split from that herd, but also it's we a lot of us don't like change. So actually what happened with COVID is not only did we get split from the herd, but it was massive change very, very quickly, which is about to happen with AI, by the way. So let's just see what that looks like, probably on another meeting. But so I think over the last kind of 3.5 years or whatever, mental health has become more and more prevalent. So I think what Jack's doing is absolutely brilliant.
That's awesome. I mean, social media has highlighted a lot of issues, both good and bad. It's got people talking. No question. It's also got people using their phones and stuff too much.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you're managing that from a parenting point of view. We've got that right now with the kids just TikTok, and they're using it as a reference point to learn stuff. So I've got my youngest Summer coming up to me saying, "Daddy, did you know that there's a shark that's the size of?" And you're like, "No, it's not true," and so on. And so
Well, I think the complication with that is that a lot of society or their peer group, their friend group will be on TikTok, so therefore they have to be. If you do a lot of research or you do a lot of work, watching of documentaries and all that sort of stuff, like the stuff that you're doing, you'll also know that a lot of the big social media companies and their executives ban their children from actually using social media, which kind of says quite a lot in itself.
Massively.
We're not at that stage yet. So Millie's 11 and Lottie and Love's are 9. They do have kids YouTube and that type of stuff, but they're not on any social media platform, not on any TikTok or TikToks or anything like that. I think it's quite interesting that you can get swept up in quite a lot of social media, and I am, right? So I've got pretty good social media presence on Instagram and definitely Twitter. I use Twitter from all the Tottenham Hotspur stuff that I do. I co-host or part of a brilliant team with Last One on Spurs, which is one of the biggest Tottenham podcasts in the UK, right? So we use social media to do that. But the problem with that is one negative comment or two negative comments out of thousands of positive comments, they're the ones that stick. And that's what I was saying right at the beginning about humans. We're funny creatures, right? Instead of going, wow, 99% of them comments are positive, we're focused on the bad one. How many times have we gone to TripAdvisor to book a hotel and there's brilliant review after brilliant review after brilliant review, and there's one bad review and you go to your partner, oh, I'm not sure if we'll book that. There is such a thing.
I know, you don't know what kind of people they are. Could be their competitor, but you see it goes in.
It goes in and it's really difficult to get out.
I'm so with you on that. Yeah. Now, the other thing, of course, is the actual source of information. So if people, and this is not just kids, right, apparently the most sourced information for mental health is TikTok. I mean, it's not reliable information. Then it's Google, which is all text-based.
Yeah. And now you've got GPT, which is, I think they've just brought out version 4, version 5's coming out, it's going to be video, version 4 is images, version 3 is just text only. You've got all of this. I mean, this is a fascinating debate that maybe is probably not right for now, but you've got Einstein, who was the genius, an IQ of 160, and ChatGPT-4 has an IQ of 1,600. So it's like,
I know.
Most people watching this or listening to this can't even fathom that. I mean, no offense to people who are watching it, of course, but I can't fathom that. It's 10 times more powerful than Einstein. So the way that the information now is going to be consumed is over the next, I don't know, I'm not an expert, right? So don't take me as an expert, but everything that I've read and I've seen, I've watched over the next kind of 2 years, the information, the way that we're going to consume it is going to completely different.
Massively changing times. And just in terms of the AI conversation, the business conversation, how do you juggle being a dad, being a husband, and all your different business interests? We spoke last week. You just got back from Austin, from America. How do you juggle?
Yeah, Austin was cool. I'm probably not a very good husband, to be fair. No, look, I mean, I think the positives that came out of COVID was that. I think that there was also, and maybe it's just me, but I'll put it out there because we're talking. I think I think 5, maybe 10 years ago, men wouldn't have been admitting or wanting to admit that they were working dads or working from home dads, or, you know, I'm going to go and do the school run to their boss. People would have been like, what, you know? And actually similarly, and I think I said to you on our call, is like, how many times does somebody ask you as a man, oh, you're out tonight, John, what have you done with the children? Like, they just never ask you that. But that is probably the first or second question that a woman gets asked every time they go out. Yeah. So again, there's still that kind of, you know, equality stigma there. I think for me, we call it Team McQueen. So there's 5 of us in our house plus our dog. So there's 6 of us, and it's Team McQueen. And whenever somebody calls Team McQueen, we all know what to do. It's we all go together. It's me, my wife, and my 3 children. It's like, this is what we've got to do. This is where it's got to be. So if there's any under pressure, it's a really good way. I mean, you know, children learn in sequences, mostly. So that if you think about it, they go to school at the right time. They got lessons at times that are planned out. Their lunches are already pre-planned. They know exactly what they want. So when they get home for dinner and you've got nothing pre-planned, what do you expect is going to happen? Carnage. So actually, why don't you put a menu and call Team McQueen, put a menu, what do you want, plan it out for the week, and then all of a sudden you've got no carnage because they know exactly what they're eating and where it's going to be. And that really smooths out. Nicola's a very successful CEO herself, and obviously I'm trying to be a successful entrepreneur. And actually sometimes that clashes, but actually if you call Team McQueen, it's like, okay, where are you this week, where am I? So it's just really about understanding what does it look like from Nicola's side, what does it look like from my side, and planning around that. Look, I'm not trying to say we're perfect, because we're not, and it always, you know, there's loads of stuff that goes wrong, but equally that's the way you've got to do when you have busy lives.
You've got a plan, you've got a system that works for you, and you've given it thought, whereas I think some people, they're almost winging it. You get to Friday, take a breath of the weekend, and you're back in on the Monday, whereas at some point you guys have Team McQueen created
Team McQueen.
I love it.
I love it. I think just on that as well, I think that the hardest thing, and I do this all the time, and I question myself all the time on this, is have I actually been present with my children? Like, I might be in the room with them, right? And they've seen daddy, and, you know, they might see daddy more than what I saw my dad, as an example. But being a milkman, like, he'd work all the way through the night. He was never there in the mornings for school, ever. Not that I'm moaning, by the way. It was just, that's what it was. And then when I did see him in the evenings, he was knackered, because he was sleeping, like, when I got off from school, he was sleeping and then go again. So, you know, but they see daddy all the time, right? Visibility-wise and et cetera, et cetera. But seeing and being there is brilliant and one thing, but are we present? Now, are you still looking on social media on your phone, or are you looking at emails,
or still thinking about the previous meeting or whatever? Yeah.
And that thinking thing, John, it's weird actually. We were talking about this week, and in the session that I've just had before I come to see you with another very, very successful tech entrepreneur, is that what most people don't understand when you're running your own business is that you are literally constantly thinking.
You're plugged in.
All the time about Phoenix 51, which is my tech business. So you're literally constantly thinking, how can I improve? How are we going to get that invoice in? How can I make sure that our client's going to be delivered? You know, how can I get what the next step looks like? What are my investors about? There's a lot of different things that you're thinking about, and it doesn't matter how big you are or small you are. If you're a startup, or if you're a big award-winning company, or whatever. It's always like that.
Dominic, it's a real constant job. I had that. You know, I try and leave everything at the door, but with the phones, with the way that the brain's working, it just can creep in.
Totally.
And sometimes the kids will call you out, which actually is never a bad thing for me, because it's like, oh God, put it down, you know, and prioritise.
Well, it's interesting. You say sometimes the kids call you out, and then you think, oh, actually, no, and then you go, no, and then you say, oh, actually, maybe you're right. Yeah. But then it's a double standard when you're going, why are you on TikTok the whole time?
Yeah.
Well, I'm on TikTok, Daddy, because you're on your email all the time.
Yeah,
so,
I've had that thrown back.
You know,
you're on your phone.
It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That actually our behaviours are fueling what our children are. And I think since I became a parent, I've actually started to realise, especially now when my children are slightly older and you have actual contact with them as humans, like as a baby and as toddlers and whatever, they can't communicate as well. But now they're full-on humans, right? So they can talk and communicate. I've started to realise that actually how much my parents influenced me, because I'm influenced, and I can see it. I can say, hang on, the only reason why they're doing that is because Nicola does that or I do that. Does that make sense?
No, totally makes sense. And with all that going on, and you look fit, you know, you're clearly driven, running Phoenix 51, Raw Talent Academy.
Yes,
so you're busy, and all the media stuff that you do. What do you do to keep fit, both mentally and physically? What works for you? Because there's so many different things you can do, from breathing exercises to going for a run. And what works for you?
See, I've just become a little bit more uncomfortable in my chair now. You're talking about fitness. I'm a bit of an up and downer, right? So I'm a bit of an all or nothing guy. So I'll get into my head that I'm going to have a week off of fitness or eating healthily or whatever it might be. And then I'll just go on it like a bingey, like not drinking. Like, I mean, I do drink alcohol, but like a bingey one, and like eat KFCs and blah, blah, blah. There's other fast food out there, of course. But all that sort of stuff. But predominantly, where I'm at now in my journey is health. So it's really about I want to look good. I don't like a hair being out of place, or I don't like, I want to look good and feel good. And thank you for the compliment about looking good. So that's good. I've done a good job today. But Absolutely. It is also about internally rather than externally as well. The visceral fat that's around your organs that we can't see, and the damage that we may or may not be doing to it internally into our bodies. And it's only when you get to, when you're 22, you don't care. No. 23, 24, it don't matter. Hangovers don't even touch the sides.
Sure.
You have 3 beers now, and you wake up in the morning thinking, oof, got a bit of a hangover, and you feel it. And I don't want to be that dad that can't run around with the dog or can't run around with his children and all that sort of stuff. That's a big thing for me, actually. Yeah. And I think that's kind of thing. But in terms of actual routine, I'm lucky enough to have a gym in my house. Yep. So I hit the gym at least 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, depending on what that looks like. Probably don't do enough legs. I've got more meat on a sparrow's kneecap, to be fair. But it is about kind of looking good and making sure that I think my metabolic age now is like 30 or something like that, or that's 29 or something. So that's pretty cool. And I think I've taken a lot more interest in that than just saying, oh, actually you've got a bit of a bicep now, or you've got a bit of a whatever. Although that is important. Summer's here now, isn't it? So that is quite important.
I love it. I've learnt so much talking to you. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, no worries. Awesome. Thanks very much for having me, John. Cheers.